South Korea's consumption rises sharply amid the Chusok holiday. We analyze the impact Chusok has on the South Korean economy. The farming industry draws attention as a high value-added industry. Let's check where South Korean agriculture is headed in a creative economy. We introduce South Korea's traffic information control system, which will immediately ease holiday traffic congestion. We go to Damyang to meet a South Korean traditional sweets hangwa maker. The traditional confectionery is recognized as a growth engine of the creative economy. North Korea's grand mass artistic performance, Arirang. We explore the truth hidden behind the glamorous performance.
Hello, I'm Andrew Salmon and welcome to Bizline. Now today, in our Chusok special edition, we have a whole range of features covering the economic aspects of this, South Korea's most important national holiday. But before we go to that, let's first take a look at all the breaking business and economic news hitting headlines across South Korea this week.
At a recent meeting with budget-related officials, the Finance Ministry asked the agencies and ministries to submit their spending cut plans by September 16th. They have been told to start cutting expenditure for projects with least priority, but the government plans to keep spending on job creation, spurring investment and export promotion. The Korea Customs Service revealed that the nation logged a surplus of $4.8 billion thanks largely to strong exports of automobiles, ships, and semiconductors. Korea posted outbound shipments worth some $46.3 billion last month, up 7.7% from the same period last year. The International Contractors Association of Korea said that the combined total for overseas orders won by Korean builders amounted to $39.8 billion to date. The association says the number actually surpasses $40 billion when adding orders recently won by GS and Daewoo Engineering and Construction with Vietnam and Venezuela, respectively. Statistics Korea said that the number of employed people stood at about 25 million in August, up more than 400,000 from the same period a year earlier. On-year job creation for August posted its largest jump in 11 months. The data comes as the nation's economy is showing signs of recovery from its prolonged downturn.
Oh, happy day, or happy days. This year's Chusok holiday covers 5 days, including Saturday and Sunday. Naturally, the loss of working days will have an economic impact. So too will the millions upon millions upon millions of man-hours lost in traffic jams. But more happily, the Chusok traditions of feasting and gift-giving also mean a spike in spending. So, what does Chusok mean for production and consumption? Let's take a look.
Chusok, one of the biggest holidays in South Korea, is a time for the family and relatives to gather together to celebrate good harvest and enjoy festive meals along the brightest full moon of the year. This year, the 3-day Chusok holiday started on September 18th, which means 5 consecutive days off from work. Because the day is calculated using the lunar calendar, it usually falls either in September or October. Last year, it was during the weekend, and there was only 1 day off from work in October. Thus, the longer than usual holiday brought about changes in how people celebrate, and there is some economic activities to consider. However, in general, what had the public planned to do during this holiday?
추석 전전날 아들하고 천안에 있는 아들하고 며느리하고 손자 손녀 올라와요. 그러면 걔들하고 이제 할머니 산소에 가서 참배하고 손자들하고 모처럼 송편도 만들고 해서 가족끼리 더 오붓하게 지낼 생각입니다.
Yes, we will meet the parents of my girlfriend and have some food together and some drinking.
To start off the celebratory mood and to share the joy of good harvest, people send gifts to others they want to thank. But rather than hand-delivering the gifts the traditional way, busy people of nowadays are using courier services to express their thanks, usually through a box of fruit or other edibles. So the post office and other delivery services set about 2 weeks leading to the Chusok holiday as a special period and increase manpower to make sure gifts are delivered on time.
추석 연휴 기간에는 소표 범위이 평소보다 3배 이상 폭주하기 때문에 특별 소통 대책반을 구성하고 비상근무 체계에 돌입합니다. 9월 2일부터 9월 17일까지 16일간을 특별 소통 기간으로 정하고 행정요원을 비롯한 전 직원과 임시 직원 20명을 추가 투입하였습니다.
As it is a long-awaited extended holiday, some families have opted to travel overseas for a family vacation rather than reuniting with relatives. Some have even submitted a leave of absence at work for Monday and Tuesday to make this Chusok a 9-day holiday. And that further gives an incentive to take a long-distance flight for an adventure.
이번 추석이 이틀만 휴가를 내면 9일 동안 가족들과 가고 싶었던 유럽 여행 갈 수 있어서 좋은 추억이 될 것 같아요.
이번 추석 같은 경우에는 지금 수요일부터 일요일까지는 연휴로 진행이 되고 있고 앞에 날짜인 월요일, 화요일 이틀만 휴가를 진행하시게 되시면은 최대 열흘까지도 진행이 가능한 상태라서 다른 연도에 비해서는 굉장히 많은 여행자분들이 예약을 하고 있는 상황이시고요. 그래서 이미 조금 서둘러서 마감이 된 상황인 것 같습니다.
But it doesn't look to be a one-off phenomenon. It also reflects change in when Koreans take vacation, which until recently have been during the peak summer season.
그러니까 명절의 의미가 예전에는 이제 조상을 섬기는 그런 의미가 있었다면 최근에는 이제 가족들끼리 모여서 모이는 것에 더 의미를 두고 있고요. 여름 휴가철 같은 경우에는 가족끼리 휴가를 맞추기가 쉽지 않습니다. 맞벌이 부부 같은 경우에는 뭐 회사에서 휴가 맞추기가 쉽지 않고요. 근데 추석 같은 경우에는 다 같이 쉬지 않습니까? 그러다 보니까 가족들끼리 시간 맞추기가 좋기 때문에 가족 단위 여행객들이 제일 많이 이용하고 있습니다.
As people take rest from work, industrial sites and machineries go on halt. That has some economic impact and create an illusion that something may be happening on the national economy when related data are released. For example, with 3 less working days compared with last year in September, the industrial production and exports may look as though they have decreased activity. On the other hand, consumer prices may rise due to an increase in demand for food necessary to celebrate the holiday. These are unavoidable because last year, the Chusok holiday fell on the weekend and people had only 1 day off from work in October.
추석처럼 이렇게 그 연휴가 긴 경우에는 이것이 생산 일수나 수출입 일수에 영향을 미쳐서 대부분의 경제 지표 같은 경우에는 전년 동기 대비 증가율로서 이것을 해석을 하는데 추석 같은 경우에는 이제 대부분이 이런 차례라든지 이런 특수 음식들을 많이 사용하기 때문에 그렇게 이제 주로 신선식품 같은 것들이 추석 전에 해서 약간 좀 이렇게 상승하는 모습을 보이고 있습니다.
To minimize the economic impact and to let the general public enjoy the national holiday as much as possible, the government do have to implement special plans. As consumer prices could fluctuate on rise in demand for food related to the Chusok celebration and in performing ancestral rites, the government releases its reserve. Every year in Korea, the government estimates how much it would cost on average for a family of 4 to prepare to perform the ancestral rite to thank good harvest. And this year, the figure came down to about $200. Furthermore, to assist small and medium-sized businesses in paying bonus to the employees, the government also released around $15 billion this year. For the general public, holiday means rest from work or perhaps going on holidays, but there are other activities behind the scene that keeps the economy going.
이제 사람이 노동을 하기 위해선 충분한 휴식을 갖춰야 되기 때문에 충분한 휴식 뒤에는 그 생산성이 어느 정도 증가를 하기 때문에요. 지금 현재 정부에서도 내년부터는 설이나 추석 연휴, 어린이날 같은 경우에 대체 휴일제를 도입하는 것을 지금 현재 긍정적으로 검토하고 있고 지금 법 제안을 준비하고 있는 상황이기 때문에요. 이런 긴 연휴로 인한 생산성 증가 같은 경우에 이제 증가들이 있기 때문에 긴 연휴 이런 것들이 긍정적인 효과를 가져올 수 있다고 생각하고 있습니다.
So, there are different aspects to consider when celebrating Chusok. It could also inspire businesses, perhaps in the leisure industry, to get creative for people wishing to celebrate good harvest under the full bright moon unconventionally, given that there are enough days off.
Chusok is all about rice. Traditionally, this is the harvest Thanksgiving festival. Yet today, South Korean farmers have little to be thankful for. Their sector is dwindling as a component of the national economy. It's now just 2.6% of the overall South Korean economy. Moreover, farmers' numbers are falling and their ages are rising. At the same time, South Korean consumers are paying above world average prices for farm products. The sector is facing massive problems. Could it one day be relegated to museums just like this one? Well, hopefully, no. Hopefully, there is some good news. To answer some of these questions, we have with us an expert. He's a Director General at the Rural Development Administration, Dr. Lee Kyu-sung. Welcome to Bizline. It's been a murderously hot summer. I don't know about you, I couldn't sleep. How is this weather going to affect this year's crop yields? And what are your estimates for the rice harvest?
As you know, that we had really very much frequent weather climate change. Caused by some climate change such as cloudy and some heavy rain during spring and summer. Particularly some really hot, we had also extremely hot weather which hindered some crop growth, so that the farmers have really very difficult to crop growth. However, if there is no really heavy typhoon or heavy rain, we are really expecting that our harvest will be very good in this year.
Well, fingers crossed, that'll be good for both farmers and consumers. Now let's speak much more generally about the sector. There's been a great deal of interest internationally in climate change. We live in an industrialized world, but is this interest in climate change kind of driving new interest globally in agriculture?
Rice self-sufficiency in Korea is around 83.2%. Relatively little bit high, but other grains like some soybean or some potato or some corn is relatively very low. So there are this are really indicating that some food security of each country became very important, a hard issue, because once we have not much production of some grains, even though we have monies, but still we cannot buy or purchase for the crops or grains in outside. To solve this matter, we are really being developed some of the seed for adjusting to biotic or some abiotic stresses, and also we have a research on some the forage crops for the feeding, and also some shifting farming location, and some crop dropping systems for preparing for the future for the climate change.
Are you suggesting that with climate change, every nation now will have to return to agriculture and increase its own yields purely for food security reasons?
Yes, that's really, we are really very much wondering about some food shortage in the future.
Well, in that case, agriculture will become much more important perhaps than it has been in recent years in South Korea. Now, in July, the government announced the 6th industrialization plan for the agricultural industry. What does this mean? What's happening?
Actually, the concept of some 6th industry is the really comprehensive some industry, including some production and some the distribution or some processing and some the tourism and some business of some restaurant. During last decades, if we are talking about agriculture, we used to think about food production. But nowadays, agriculture is not only for food production, but also we are including various sectors of the industry, as I mentioned. This is being really integrated with some processing industry and rural tourism and restaurant to accelerate for the commercialization and the consumption of the local food. For these purposes, the agricultural centers at city and some counties, they are educating farmers on some processing and some business starts up to increase farmers' income. And also, we are really revitalizing rural tourism by facilitating from the farm schooling, by making of the most of the educational some cultural values or some agricultural assets and the rural communities.
Okay. You've pointed out some of the problems facing the sector. There are climatic problems here, geographical problems, economic problems, distribution problems, and so on. But what about the central problem? That is the fact that South Koreans are leaving the countryside, they're leaving the farms, instead they're going to factories and offices. It's now an industrialized economy. Can this aging population in rural areas somehow be reversed?
Actually, it's really very hard solution in the national levels. As you know, that the rapid aging of the rural population has led to some shortage of the labor force in rural community. And the average age of the rural population is in Korea in 63. It's higher than 57 in United States and 62 of the Japan. Moreover, the population over 65 years old accounts for around 31%, which means that rural Korea is entering into some super aged society. To solve this problem, the government have made various policies, such as some farm size, from the small farm size to large scale of the farm size. And another one is that we are trying to educating some young generation by the pre-education at the College of the Agriculture, so that we are going to provide some young generation as a farmer to the rural society in the future.
In South Korea today, there is this whole issue, a big buzzword in the government is creative economy. And of course, everybody wants to jump on this bandwagon. If you look at agriculture, it doesn't seem to synchronize or link with the creative economy. Are there ways that agriculture is now becoming part of the creative economy? Can you give any examples of the way this is being moved forward?
Yes, actually, we have the many R&D for some creative idea. And as I mentioned before, if we limit the agriculture for the food production, only if would be lost its competitiveness. Therefore, we have to develop the technology for adding more values based on the high technology, so that we can create some new growth engine in the future. In this regard, ALDE has implemented the BioGreen 21 project since 2001.
Sorry, that project name was?
BioGreen 21.
Okay.
Yes. Listed some partnership among the industry and some university and also research institute, and the convergence of the technology have created new values in agricultural products. For example, we have developed functional rice and soybean and all the crops. For example, high anthocyanin, the component will be very good for the health, for the rice, and some dietary rice, and there are many GABA content is really high. This is very good for our mind controls, and also the special functionality. Also, we are developing all the crops.
What does special functionality mean for a crop?
Like a potato is with some color potato, which is really like a purple color, which is a high antioxidant components we have. That will be very good for the antioxidant.
Okay.
Yes.
Some of that sounds really quite fascinating. Is there not there's a movement globally against GM or genetically modified crops?
Yes.
Is that a risk for you here in Korea?
Yes, actually this is not really practically used in the farmers field, but for the preparation of for the future, we are really developing that kind of some GMO. For example, the golden rice we developed already. Which is golden rice.
Golden rice.
Yeah, which have a high content of some beta carotene, which is really abundant of the vitamin A. This will be very good for the nutritional hunger people. Also, we can export of this kind of the crops in later.
Got it. But is the South Korean consumer population willing to accept genetically modified crops as part of their diet?
No, actually they doesn't like as of now. And also it will be really very hard to practical uses in Korea at the stage of now. But in the future, I don't know, 10 or 15 years later, if there are some problems, especially when there is some climate change and there are some many drought, flooding, and some biotic or some abiotic stresses, under this kind of some worse condition, this kind of some GMO crops will be really very much fruitful and productive.
Okay.
Yes.
So that there's no way around this. They have to be done.
No,
okay.
no,
Understood.
no. Yeah.
Dr. Lee, clearly South Korea is an industrialized society now. Of course, it is also a capitalist nation. Agriculture needs to be economically viable. Can agriculture exist in the future as an economically viable sector of the economy? If so, what is the potential of agriculture in the future?
Really, the agricultural potential is really very high in Korea. Actually, the role of the agriculture is in Korea just to providing some stable food to the Korean people. But for the future, even we have to do provide some stable food to the people is our main role of the agriculture in Korea. And furthermore, high technologies as well as a good infrastructure and seed and some cultural technology converged with some agriculture would be the most important factors for the development of agriculture. The efforts of to use of the information technology and biotechnology and some the nanotechnology and to upgrade that agriculture into 6 industry will give us a new opportunity to open the market and create the new jobs. What's the most important is that the farmers and government and the industry stand by together and work together with the same purposes.
Okay, well that all makes good sense. I mean, from listening to you today, clearly agriculture is surprisingly becoming more important rather than less in the future. And South Korea has not really been blessed with great climatic conditions or great geographic conditions, but perhaps some of these rather remarkable technologies you've just mentioned could provide a way forward.
Yes.
Well, thanks very much for being with us today. Dr.
Thank
Lee,
you
it's
so
been
much.
a pleasure.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Thank you for invitation. Yeah.
Don't mention it. It's the recipe for a perfect storm. Take one of the world's top auto-producing nations. Season with a population of millions of urbanites traveling to their rural hometowns over a national holiday. The result is the mother of all traffic jams. And this is something Koreans endure every year at Chusok. Fortunately, technology is coming to the rescue. This year, Koreans hitting the roads have been able to take advantage of some traffic information technology that leverages ICT. How does it work? Let's take a look.
During the Chusok holiday, when many people spend time with their families, there is a place which is busier than ever. Let's take a look at South Korea's traffic control system, which is helping South Koreans to visit their hometowns quickly and safely. In the 1990s, traffic was jammed by cars from all across the country due to those visiting their hometowns. It took 12 hours to get to Busan from Seoul, which is about 400 kilometers. It wasn't unusual to see people pulling over their cars in the middle of a highway to take a break. But it is hard to see such scenes anymore as South Koreans' travel time to visit their hometowns nearly halved thanks to the systematic control of traffic flow. About 1,600 high-definition CCTV cameras installed every 2 kilometers nationwide are recording highway conditions throughout the day. In addition, vehicle detection apparatus installed all over the highways detects speed of vehicles passing by and identifies congested areas. TCS equipment installed at toll gates counts the number of cars passing by and finds out real-time traffic volume. Korea Expressway Corporation's Transportation Management Center monitors and analyzes all this information and controls traffic.
전국 고속도로에는 실시간 교통 흐름을 파악할 수 있는 차량 감지 장치와 CCTV, 그리고 각 길차로 진입 조절 등 교통 관리 설비 등과 이를 제어하는 운영 시스템으로 구성되어 있으며, 이러한 각종 교통관리 시설에서 수집된 정보는 전면 상황판과 운영자의 모니터에서 실시간 확인이 가능하며 운영자가 직접 제어하고 있습니다.
Traffic information analyzed here is sent to road users in real time. Road users can also get the information via electronic highway signs, traffic broadcasting systems, websites, or the application provided by Korea Expressway.
이번 추석이나 설날 때 같은 경우는 더 막 빠르게 변화를 하고 운전자들도 다른 사람이 알지 못하는 정보를 알고 싶어 하는 게 운전자들의 심리거든요. 그래서 저희는 이제 조금 더 다양한 정보를, 그러니까 누구나 갖고 있지 않은 정보를 저희들이 취합을 해서 이렇게 전달하는 게 목표고요.
The application service is popular as road users can figure out current highway situations and traffic accidents. Since its launch in 2010, about 8.76 million drivers have downloaded the application.
출발하시기 전에 목적지까지의 소통 상황을 확인하여 전체 이동 경로를 미리 정하고 정체가 심할 경우 우회 노선이나 출발 시간을 조정할 수도 있습니다. 교통 상황은 수시로 변하기 때문에 이동 중에도 확인하여 경로를 변경하는 것도 한 방법입니다. 또한 고속도로와 국도 CCTV 영상으로 현장 상황을 생생하게 볼 수 있습니다.
When there is traffic congestion, like during the Chusok holiday, traffic information usage by road users is nearly 7 times higher than normal days. Most vehicle drivers on highways use the traffic information provided by Korea Expressway.
요즘에는 스마트폰 어플이 많이 발달돼서 제가 뭐 교통 상황도 알 수 있고 막히는 길이 있으면은 조금 돌아서 갈 수도 있어서 좋은 것 같아요.
People can reduce their time on the roads if they choose to drive at a less busy traffic time, as informed by the traffic forecast system.
우리 한국도로공사에서는 과거 교통 정보 자료를 바탕으로 해서 교통 예보 시스템을 구축해서 운영 중에 있으며, 이 시스템을 통해서 요일, 정체 상황 등을 고려해서 자동으로 시간대별로 도시간 소요 시간을 산정하고 있습니다. 교통 예보 시스템에서 자동으로 산정된 결과를 그날의 기상 상황이나 교통사고 등 돌발 상황을 고려해서 석박사급으로 구성된 교통예보 전문가들의 검증을 거쳐서 고속도로 이용객들에게 제공되고 있습니다.
Despite much heavier volume of traffic, the travel time to visit people's hometowns fell further thanks to systematic control of highways and information delivery. If so, what about inner roads? For those who spend Chusok with their close family members in the cities, getting traffic information is also essential. For some time now, people in Seoul haven't had to wait for their buses aimlessly at bus stops.
버스 오는 시간에 맞춰서 집에서 나오니까 시간이 더 절약되고 기다리는 시간도 절약돼서 좋은 것 같아요.
Electronic signs at bus stops are announcing bus numbers and their estimated time of arrival in real time. A more convenient way is to use the application, which guides the arrival time of the next bus. It tells us real-time information on intracity buses, local buses, as well as subways. People can reduce their waiting time by using this.
GPS로부터 올라온 정보들 중에 최근 15분간의 정보를 기반으로 실시간 도착 정보를 생산하고 있습니다.
According to a survey, people's satisfaction on bus route information with real-time bus location was more than 96% in 2010. This service has become indispensable for South Koreans. Shorter commuting time and time using public transportation help speed up traffic flow.
소통 상황을 모니터링하고 정체 지점으로부터 가장 가까운 CCTV를 통해서 정체 원인을 파악합니다.
정체 원인이 파악이 되면 도로 정강 표지, 홈페이지, 모바일 웹, 그리고 트위터나 페이스북과 같은 SNS를 통해서 정체 원인을 알려드리고 있습니다.
From next year, Seoul Transport Operation and Information Service, or TOPIS, plans to operate traffic condition forecast system using big data on traffic information accumulated for more than 10 years. This will enable TOPIS to forecast traffic conditions, just like weather forecasts, or suggest the best detour routes. South Korea's traffic control system is helping South Koreans visit their hometowns quickly and safely during the Chusok holiday. We expect faster, safer, and more convenient road traffic in the future.
From long ago, Koreans have been making a range of traditional finger food snacks. They're called hangwa, and they're extremely popular on national holidays like Chusok. By no coincidence, this week's hidden champion is the company introducing hangwa to the world.
Traditional hangwa has been around for a long time, satisfying the sweet tooth of many Koreans, young and old. The traditional taste of hangwa reveals the balance between the various colors and nutrition. The hangwa is a traditional Korean confectionery that has been served throughout Korean history, especially during national events such as ancestral rituals, marriages, and royal banquets.
여러 가지 곡류나 견과류, 근체류 등 풍부한 농산물로 만들어지므로 음식이 곧 약이 된다는 개념을 가지고 있다는 점이 큰 장점입니다. 이렇게 한과는 들어가는 재료만 보더라도 영양이나 향, 인체와의 조화 등이 과학적인 배합을 기본으로 하고 있습니다.
Although it was available to the general public, there was little attempt to mass-produce hangwa, mainly because of ingredient cost coupled with the time and effort needed to make the traditional confectionery. Jeollanam-do Damyeong County, Chungpyeongmyeon is located in the southern part of Korea. The area was selected as Asia's first slow city with its beautiful scenery of Korea's untouched countryside. Chungpyeong is famous for producing the best rice yacht and grain syrup in the country, which are the key ingredients for making hangwa. So it's no surprise that the area is well known to make delicious hangwas with traditional family recipes. Damyeong Hangwa has set up their bases in Chungpyeong, making their hangwas the traditional way to become the leader in hangwa manufacturing. Damyeong Hangwa President Park Sun-ae is the person who is responsible for commercializing hangwa with a family recipe. She is the appointed master by the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs and famous for being the traditional food expert by creating the best hangwas with 30 years of manufacturing know-how.
우리 땅에서 나는 걸 가지고 만들기 때문에 우리 입맛에 맞고 또 옛날부터 이렇게 내려오는 전통 음식이기 때문에 사람들한테 거부감이 없잖아요.
For the hangwa lovers, there are special shops that sell the traditional snack. Damyeong Hangwa store enjoys a constant flow of customers by selling traditional hangwas.
예전에 제가 담양항을 이렇게 선물을 받은 적이 있었거든요. 근데 먹어보니까 맛있어요. 근데 여기 와서 이제 골고루 사가봤거든요. 근데 괜찮더라고요. 직접 만든 거 바로 먹으니까.
The taste and the nutritional aspect are what makes Damyeong Hangwa so special. It does not include any artificial additives like coloring and uses natural ingredients to make the colorful hangwas. All the ingredients come from grains and fruits, making it exceptionally nutritional.
처음에 이렇게 딱 보셨을 때는 맛있겠다 이렇게 색이 아름답잖아요. 저희 전통 음식이 오방색으로 돼 있잖아요. 그래서 아름답고 먹기 먹기도 좋고 이렇게 하는데 그 제일 중요한 게 모든 재료가 그 자연에서 얻는 재료를 가지고 만들어요. 자연에서 얻는 색, 또 자연에서 얻는 그 곡물을 가지고 만들기 때문에 우수성은 뭐 세계 어느 나라 식품보다 우수하다고 봅니다.
향이라든가 색소라든가 일반 뭐 방부제라든가 그런 것이 전혀 안 들어가고 순수 발효 과정을 거쳐서 만들기 때문에 일단은 맛이 부드럽고 또 소화가 잘 되는 것이 가장 큰 장점이라고 할 수가 있습니다.
The manufacturing, processing, and the distribution of hangwa is all done with the latest hygienic facility system. It took the company many long hours and years to come up with the system that would make the high-quality traditional hangwas.
전통식품이 과거에는 이 손으로만 작업을 하고 하다 보니까 위생시설이 많이 낙후된 건 사실이거든요. 그래서 모든 그 위생 설비부터 시작해가지고 공조시설, 거기에 따르는 기계 자동화 시설까지는 지금 그 어느 업체 못지않게 지금 시설을 갖추고 있다고 그렇게 생각을 하고 있습니다.
There is a place to experience the making of hangwa near the Damyang Hangwa plant. It provides the opportunity for people who are not familiar with the traditional snack to learn more. We provide the opportunity to make hangwa the traditional way, so people can get involved and taste it as well. We receive hundreds of students and foreign visitors every month.
유치원생부터 시작해서 중고등학교, 대학교, 이제 담양에 투어 오신 분들, 외국에서 여행 오신 분들, 남녀노소 가리지 않고 할머니, 할아버지까지 다 오셔서 해보시고 너무 즐거워하세요. 이렇게 쉽게 만든 것을 몰랐다고 그렇게 하고 가시더라고요. 다 즐겁게 하시고 가셔요.
서양 과자는 막 기름기가 많고 좀 계속 먹으면 뭔가 질렸는데 우리 한가를 먹어보니까 많이 먹어도 질리지도 않고 만들어 보니까 좀 재밌고 맛있는 것 같아요.
조미료 같은 그런 맛이 더 안 나고요. 뭔가 자연적으로 만들어진 약간 그런 것 같아요.
Damyang Hangwa has launched its premium hangwa dubbed Aruhwa recently, introducing it at major domestic department stores and supermarkets. This has soon led to a stronger presence of the product in the domestic hangwa market. Damyang Hangwa's next project is overseas exports. The company plans to implement an aggressive marketing strategy by coming up with many more varieties of hangwa that range up to 100 kinds.
한과라 그래서 전부 다 어느 나라든지 가서 판다고 해서 그게 되는 게 아니더라고요. 그래서 각 그 나라의 입맛에 맞는 한과를 개발을 해가지고 수출을 하려고 지금 다 이렇게 노력을 하고 있습니다. 그래서 대학교하고 그것도 연구를 해보고 또 거기에 몸에 좋은 기능성으로 첨가를 하면은 세계적인 음식이 되지 않을까, 한과가 멀지 않아서 그렇게 바라고 있습니다.
Traditional hangwa stands tall, taking up a leading role in the Korea wave by promoting Korea's beauty to the world. The sweet taste of Korea is expected to take over the palates of the global community.
Some would call it one of the wonders of the world. Thousands of performers, perfectly synchronized, flashing coloured cards to create moving panoramas which are the size of football stadiums. Others, however, would counter that North Korea's Arirang mass games are in fact the product of coercion, regimentation and abuse. What is the truth behind these remarkable performances? Well, to find out, we spoke to British documentary filmmaker Dan Gordon, who in 2005 got a privileged close-up behind-the-scenes look at the Arirang mass games.
In 2004, an award-winning documentary about North Korea was made. A State of Mind, directed by a British documentarist Daniel Gordon, is about two North Korean girl gymnasts practicing for the annual Grand Mass Games in 2003. Inspired by North Korea's very first Arirang festival in 2002, Mr. Gordon took his curiosity further into his profession.
It was just the most mind-blowing spectacle to see in person. So what I wanted to do when I made the documentary was connect with the performers and realise what it takes to do that performance and why.
Mass games have always been part of the North Korean people's lives, but the one in 2002 was special in the sense that it was the largest in size and designed to commemorate the 90th anniversary of Kim Il-sung's birth.
경제적인 어려움이 지속됐던 상황이고 또 새로운 체제가 출범하면서 보다 강한 어떤 미래에 대한 상을 구현하기 위한 북한 내부의 주민들의 단결력을 이끌어낼 수 있는 그런 역할이 우선적인 목적이었다고 보고 있고요.
해외에서 그것들을 보고 막 열광을 아리랑 하면서 들어와서 보기 시작했어요. 근데 그때는 해외에서 다 들어온 게 아니고 중국이나 조금 이런 데서 초대받은 사람들이 와서 보기 시작하니까 그때부터 아리랑을 외화거래 수단으로 돌린 거죠.
So there came the title of the mass gymnastics and artistic performance Arirang, or better known as Arirang Festival. And in 2007, it was recognized by the Guinness Book of World Records as the biggest event of its kind. More than 100,000 performers are involved, including 80,000 dancers, gymnasts and musicians on the ground, as well as 20,000 school kids creating a giant colourful backdrop.
나이는 적게는 6살, 7살부터요. 많게는 군인들까지 다 참가를 하는 거죠. 군인들까지 20대 후반, 20세에서 25세까지. 여자들 같은 경우는 키를 맞춰야 되기 때문에 그래서 기약 때는 지방에서 많이 선발을 하죠.
The 90-minute show celebrates the patriotic story of the Hermit Kingdom, how the country put an end to the history of distress and rose as a dignified nation. Needless to say, it glorifies the late leaders Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il, the Workers' Party and the People's Army of North Korea.
2012년부터는 이제 김정일 국방위원장이 사망한 이후에는 김정일 국방위원장에 관한 장이 새롭게 들어가서 추모의 장이 또 만들어지기도 했고요. 2013년 같은 경우에는 이제 북한하고 중국 사이에 어떤 관계가 발전하면서 친선인장이라고 하니 크게 확대됐던 이런 특징들을 좀 보이고 있습니다.
Indeed, the massive mobilization and perfect synchronization produces unbelievably spectacular scenes. But the amount of practice and efforts to perfect the synchronicity and movement is far beyond one's imagination.
First time I actually witnessed them practice was in February 2003. It was -8 or 18 degrees, depending whether you do Fahrenheit or Celsius, which was incredibly cold. The rivers were frozen in Pyongyang, and they were practicing outdoors. And I couldn't believe it. I don't know whether I thought it was too harsh, but I thought they were very brave to practice in those conditions. And these kids were young, you know, they were sort of 11, 12, just practicing outside Kim Il-sung Stadium.
겨울에는 진짜 덧신 하나 신고 훈련을 하거든요. 바닥에서. 겨울에도 눈이 있어도 거기에서 해야 되고 하니까 또 동상도 많이 걸리고. 제일 많았던 게 익사병 환자. 더운 날씨에 가만히 서서, 그러니까 저희 같은 거는 운동을 하지만 걔네는 이게 줄을 맞추는 운동 그런 걸 많이 해요. 그러면 가만히 서서 자기 그 행렬을 맞춰야 되는 가만히 서 있는 때가 너무 많거든요. 그러면 움직이지도 못하고 그 몇백 명이 서가지고 그 햇볕을 그대로 내려받으면서 서 있는 거죠.
Extreme cold and heat might be bearable if they are at least well fed and rested. In addition, they are prone to injury.
저희는 밥을 많이 먹으면 2끼밖에 못 먹고요. 계속 계란으로 저희는 체중을 맞춰야 돼서 또 배 튀어나오면 저희는 안 돼서 항상 이렇게 복대라는 걸 차고 저희는 운동할 때도 하거든요. 그래가지고 배고픔은 있었는데 저희 같은 건 어쩔 수가 없었어요. 아스팔트 같은 데서 훈련할 땐 떨어지면 턱도 나가는 애도 있고 저도 머리도 많이 깨진 데가 있거든요. 머리를 헤쳐보면 그래서 머리를 웬만해서 안 올리거든요. 그러니까 깨진 데가 이렇게 자리가 나서.
Now, when we got to the time of the performance, they were training for sort of 8 or so hours a day. It was during the summer holidays, and it was 8 to 10 hours every day. And I was thinking that's really, really serious stuff.
So why does North Korea put such a great emphasis on the mass games and drive even little children to extreme conditions? Is it to show the world the unwavering devotion of the North Korean people to its regime? To everyone's surprise, the answer is no.
Whenever a Westerner watches the mass games, they always say, why don't you win more gold medals at the Olympic Games? Because they all think that they should put that effort into gymnastics performances to win gold medals at the Olympic Games. And it's not about that. It's not about the outside world praising North Korea for an amazing mass games. It's purely for internal consumption to drive home the propaganda message. If one performer makes a mess or drops the ball or doesn't put the hours in or doesn't make an effort, the whole team falls apart. And that's what they do.
그러니까 TV로 계속 저 아리랑을 잘 안 봐요. 왜냐면 그 제가 했던 생각이 나서 좀 그때는 진짜 육체적으로 너무 힘들어서 했던 것 같고 얘네도 지금 똑같이 고생을 하고 있을 거잖아요. 그래서 참 마음이 아프죠.
There is more to the magnificent spectacle of Arirang Festival than meets the eye. There is something that needs to be addressed here. Why do most North Korean policies and approaches, including the world's biggest mass games, seem to be designed to destabilize the whole edifice of socialism, when exactly the opposite is their goal?
And that's all we have time for on Bizline this week. But do join us please next week. We'll be discussing a very important and significant issue. That is the economic crisis engulfing a number of Asian emerging markets at the moment. What are its causes? What are its effects? And what impact may it have on the South Korean economy? These are the questions we'll be asking next week, so please do join us. I'm Andrew Salmon. This was Bizline. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.